hell, some people around you might actually be aliens.
Recent research in the social sciences at Harvard suggests that aliens may already have been living on Earth for some time. So, do aliens really exist? After more than 3 years of investigating, I've gathered a large body of evidence and turned it into this video series. Through these clips, I'll walk you through the possible evidence for alien presence. Strongly recommend liking and subscribing so you don't miss the next episode.
Most UFO sighting reports, including those tied to Project Blue Book, eventually became public thanks to the Freedom of Information Act or other declassification efforts. But the MJ-12 committee worried that if certain files ever leaked into hospital data systems, the medical and technological evidence linked to aliens, including records that one extraterrestrial had allegedly been captured alive and kept alive for 3 years, couldn't be made public. There were also additional reports from the EBE, extraterrestrial biological entity, deemed too sensitive for disclosure. One such report, in Project Aquarius Volume 4, described the very first alien visits to Earth, going back 5,000 years.
According to the EBE, their ancestors even placed a human on Earth 2,000 years ago to help guide early civilizations. But because the details were vague, no identity, no background info, MJ-12 feared releasing it would spark massive religious upheaval worldwide. To manage the situation, MJ-12 allowed only volumes 1 through 3 of Project Aquarius to be slowly released, in a staggered rollout, so the public could get used to eventual full disclosure. Then comes the Serpo Project, a supposed 1965 US government exchange program with aliens. According to the story, 12 American scientists were sent to the planet Serpo in the Zeta Reticuli system to live with the Ebens for 13 years. The authenticity of Serpo has always been murky, no hard evidence, no official confirmation. But if true, it would rank as one of the most mind-blowing events in human history. The Serpo story resurfaced in December 2005, when UFO researcher Victor Martinez claimed he received a bombshell email detailing a secret late 1960s mission. The account said 12 specialists traveled on an alien craft to a world 5,000 years more advanced than ours, lived there for 13 years, and returned with alien tech. This ties back to Roswell, 1947. In that New Mexico desert crash, the US supposedly recovered 3 alien bodies and 1 survivor, later housed at Los Alamos. That survivor, nicknamed EBE-1, cooperated with military scientists, shared details about his home star system, Zeta Reticuli, and even handed over a communication device that let the US contact his people. By 1952, America had established two-way contact. The Ebens proposed an exchange program. They'd send a ship in 1965 to pick up humans and bring them to their planet. After careful consideration, the US government approved the plan and began preparations. According to former US Air Force Major Richard McKeever, he was one of the participants in the mission, and by the time he revealed the story, he was the only surviving member. In 1958, McKeever took part in the Crystal Night Project, the precursor to the Selber Plan, which involved a total of 12 people, including himself. At the Cortland Air Force Base, they attended a top-secret briefing where the commander showed them a video, the very Roswell footage we mentioned earlier. After being briefed on the full extent of what the military had discovered, they were introduced to a 13-year-long mission of cultural and technological exchange on the planet Selber. After 7 years of intensive training and preparation, on July 16, 1965, the 12 Earth humans boarded an alien spacecraft and embarked on their historic journey. The journey took 9 months. They lived on Serpo for 13 years, then returned with tech, equipment, and knowledge, but also heavy radiation exposure that cut most of their lives short. One participant, Richard McKeever, lived long enough to blow the whistle decades later before passing away. Whether Serpo is fact or fiction remains debated, and most info has since vanished online. After extensive investigation, American author Len Kasten, in his book Secret Journey to Planet Serpo, gives a detailed account of the entire Serpo project. He connects it with the historical context of the time and the various UFO incidents reported online, presenting a large amount of evidence to uncover the truth behind the plan. And then, decades later, in April 2022, the Pentagon publicly released 3 UFO videos, this time admitting they were authentic, labeling them unidentified aerial phenomena.
There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA.
My gosh!
going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Look at that thing, dude.
Nickel 6-1, tank Roger.
Oh, got him! Woohoo!
Roger.
On May 17, 2022, the U.S. Congress held its first hearing in over 50 years focused on unidentified aerial phenomena, UAPs, and UFOs. During the hearing, a series of UFO videos were shown. Scott Bray, Deputy Director of Naval Intelligence, shared footage captured by Navy pilots encountering unknown objects during fleeting encounters. One video was shot from inside a Navy fighter jet cockpit. Another, from July 2019, showed multiple UFOs captured by sailors on a Navy ship participating in a Southern California naval exercise using night vision goggles and DSLR cameras. In some clips, pyramid-shaped UFOs were clearly visible. The hearing centered on 144 UAP cases reviewed by U.S. intelligence agencies since 2004. Of those, only one could be explained. The remaining 143 remain unexplained.
Following the U.S. hearing, on June 24, 2022, the Brazilian Senate held its own UFO hearing, officially acknowledging the reality of UFO phenomena. Over 10 documented incidents were released, including several alleged abduction cases, mostly involving disappearances or memory manipulation. The Brazilian UFO hearing confirmed these records as genuine, noting that witnesses had no apparent motive to lie.
Even former U.S. President Barack Obama, when asked about aliens in an interview, stated, "There are some things about aliens I can't share with you on live TV."
When it comes to aliens, there's some things I just can't tell you on air. What is true, and I'm actually being serious here, is that there's footage and records of objects in the skies that we don't know exactly what they are. We can't explain how they moved, their trajectory. They did not have an easily explainable pattern.
In recent years, the question of whether aliens exist has repeatedly come up with U.S. presidents, and their answers have been surprisingly consistent. No comment.
That just in the last 2 years, more than 20 planets have been identified outside our solar system that they might be able to support some form of life. So it makes it increasingly less likely that we're alone.
Oh, you're trying to give me a hint that there are aliens.
No. I'm trying to tell you I don't know.
Would you be allowed to tell your daughters what was in those files?
No.
You would not?
No.
Now that you're out of office, you can do anything you want, right?
True. Yeah. But I'm not telling. UFOs? Any UFOs? Did you ask about that?
Certainly asked about it.
And?
Can't tell you. Sorry.
Okay. All right, I'll take that as a yes.
Former Russian President and Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev has publicly acknowledged the existence of extraterrestrials.
Все. Ну вот, например, прилетали на Землю инопланетяне, представлены зеленые человечки.
Значит, рассказываю вам первый и последний раз. Вместе с передачей чемодана с ядерными кодами президенту страны приносят специальную папку. На ней написано «Совершенно секретно». И она целиком и полностью посвящена пришельцам, которые посетили нашу планету. Одновременно предоставляется доклад абсолютно закрытой спецслужбы, которая занимается контролем пришельцев на территории нашей страны. Значит, две эти папки передаются вместе с ядерным чемоданом. После прекращения полномочий, соответственно, эти папки передаются новому президенту.
On September 12th, Mexico's Congress held its first-ever public hearing on unidentified anomalous phenomena, showcasing two remains believed to be alien. During the session, Mexican UFO expert and journalist Moises claimed that these two fossils were from extraterrestrial beings dating back 1,000 years. The remains were not part of Earth's evolutionary line and weren't discovered in UFO wreckage, but in diatomite, later fossilized. The exact discovery site was not disclosed. In fact, these remains were initially found in 2017 in mines near the Nazca region of Peru, dating back roughly 1,800 and 700 years. Their heads were elongated, and each hand had 3 fingers. DNA analysis suggested they were not human. Peru is a mysterious land. Not just Machu Picchu and architectural anomalies, but also the Nazca Lines, still a global enigma. This is considered one of the strongest pieces of evidence that aliens may have visited Earth. And coincidentally, these mummified aliens were discovered in a cave near the Nazca Lines, roughly the size of a human child, with 23 pairs of chromosomes, but anatomy that diverged from humans. Long skulls, 3 fingers and toes, more joints, and longer segments. Skepticism arose immediately. Early claims suggested the mummies were plaster replicas, but later biological testing confirmed they were genuine. Some argued tomb robbers modified human mummies for profit. However, 2018 DNA tests in Canada and France showed their genomes differed significantly from modern humans, with only about 20% similarity. Unlike Egyptian mummies, the Nazca mummies preserved internal organs. Russian scientists suggested they might belong to an ancient human civilization, anatomically very different from modern humans. A Peruvian forensic expert declared without doubt that these were alien remains. Peru also holds other mysteries, like the Paracas skulls. In 1928, Peruvian archaeologist Julio Tello uncovered a lavish underground cemetery hidden beneath the desert, where he unearthed more than 300 elongated, deformed skulls. Some of them date back over 3,000 years, and they became known as the mysterious Paracas skulls. While some scientists suggested the elongated heads were the result of ancient practices, binding skulls with cloth and wooden boards for ritual purposes, research tells a different story. Compared to normal human skulls, the Paracas skulls are at least 25% larger and 60% heavier. Even their structure is different. A typical human skull has 2 parietal plates, but the Paracas skulls only have 1. Such differences cannot be explained by head-binding traditions, since cranial deformation can change shape, but not volume, weight, or structural design, which leaves only one unsettling possibility. These beings were not human. According to media reports, Stanford professor Gary Nolan made waves a few years ago at a conference in New York when he boldly stated that aliens have already visited Earth and may still be here today.
Nolan, an immunologist and even a Nobel Prize nominee, grabbed everyone's attention while speaking at a Pentagon-related event on extraterrestrial civilizations and crashed UFOs.
When asked about the chances that aliens had actually come to Earth, he didn't hesitate. His answer was 100%.
The host then asked Dr. Nolan for evidence to back up his claim. In response, he told the audience, "Just take a look at what the US government has been up to lately." He revealed that he'd participated in US congressional hearings on extraterrestrial life, where discussions even touched on people working on reverse engineering crashed UFOs. In his view, even the tiniest breakthrough from such research could spark a real technological revolution.
It's said that technologies like the transistor and the integrated circuit were developed through reverse engineering of alien spacecraft. Let's take a look at when these technologies were invented.
On December 16, 1947, the first transistor was successfully created at Bell Labs. In 1958, Jack Kilby invented the integrated circuit. Looking at this timeline, it's clear that the US experienced a technological explosion from the 1950s to the 1970s.
Between 1961 and 1972, the US carried out a series of manned lunar missions, culminating with Apollo 11, which on July 21, 1969, achieved the first manned moon landing. Considering this rapid surge in technological progress, it's hard not to wonder how exactly these breakthroughs came about. According to the Daily Mail on June 5th, former U.S. intelligence officer David Charles Grush recently blew the whistle to Congress and the Intelligence Community Inspector General, claiming that the U.S. government has been attempting to cover up its findings on unidentified flying objects. Grush stated that as UFOs have crashed on Earth, the U.S. has acquired a large number of parts and materials of non-human origin. He said the U.S., along with other countries, has been conducting highly classified operations to reverse engineer UFO debris to develop new weapons.
Grush, 36, previously served in Afghanistan and worked for National Geographic, the National Space Intelligence Agency, and the National Reconnaissance Office. From 2019 to 2021, he was part of a special task force on unidentified aerial phenomena. According to him, this top-secret initiative dates back to the early 20th century. Grush even claimed that over the past 80 years, the U.S. military buildup has leveraged alien technology. Retired U.S. Army Colonel Carl Norrell corroborated Grush's claims, stating that Grush's account of an 80-year-long ground-based arms race focused on reverse-engineered, unidentified technology is fundamentally accurate, and that some of this technology is of non-human intelligence.
From these reports, it's clear that the U.S. has been recovering crashed alien spacecraft for at least the past 80 years. So, let's trace back the history of UFO events.